Back in the 1990s, I spent 4 years serving as the liaison between the United Nations and Israeli intelligence, working on issues related to Iraq weapons of mass destruction. But I became very familiar with Israeli intelligence. I met a lot of people, and from the heads of intelligence on down. And one of the people that I met was the person responsible for doing the national assessments, the threat assessments. And I was curious from the standpoint of, how Israel factored in the disarmament process that was ongoing in Iraq into its threat assessment related to Iraq. A lot of people don't realize that after the Gulf War in 1991, Israel viewed Saddam Hussein's continued existence to be an existential issue for Israel, and that they actually tried to assassinate him in 1992. The assassination failed in rehearsal and all this, but the point is, Iraq was of such a threat that they were trying to kill Saddam Hussein. But by the time we began working with the Israelis, and then a couple years in, Iraq wasn't deemed to be a fundamental threat to Israel anymore because we had brought their weapons of mass destruction programs under control, etc. And so I was happy to see Iraq go from one of the top threats down the list. That meant that our work was succeeding. But I was curious as to what the number one threat to Israel was in the mind of this man who's responsible for doing the threat assessments. And it wasn't Iran, it was Israel. Israel was the number one threat to Israel. The extreme orthodoxy, the extreme right wing. Israel was going through a period of time where they were bringing in hundreds of thousands of Jewish refugees from Russia and Ukraine in the collapse of the Soviet Union, absorbing them. These were people who were that had no connectivity to the Middle East, and they were prone to be extremely anti-Arab, extremely anti-Palestinian, and they empowered the radical right. And the threat was from here, the domestic threat. This guy said that left unchecked, these people will be the end of Israel. And the reason why I bring that up is that this is a statement that was made in 1998. If you look today, the statement coming out of Israel from many former prime ministers, former generals, is just that Benjamin Netanyahu is an extreme right-wing government is the greatest threat to Israel that exists today. So I want to put that in perspective here, because when we talk about, that which can destroy the Israeli nation, Israel's the greatest threat to Israel. As we speak, Netanyahu's under tremendous pressure. He's being pursued by the courts, pursued by Shin Bet and others, and his continued hold on power is not guaranteed at all. Israel is fundamentally divided. The president of Israel, before October 7th, 2023, back when hundreds of thousands of Israelis were demonstrating in the streets in opposition to the proposed judicial reforms that were being pursued by Benjamin Netanyahu, he said that Israel is on the cusp of a civil war, not civil unrest, not, civil disobedience, a civil war where Jew will shoot Jew, Jew will fight Jew. And nothing has changed. It's only gotten worse. So Israel's in a very, very difficult situation now. So if you understand that, now you start layering over the different external threats. First of all, this will be a little controversial, but I'll say, Hamas beat Israel. If you think anything other than that, you're not a military person. And the Israeli military admits this. They've just put out their own internal study that says on October 7th, Hamas strategically defeated Israel. It was a strategic military victory by Hamas over an ill-prepared Israel. And in the 15 months that followed, Israel did not defeat Hamas because the Israeli objectives were stated as the physical destruction of Hamas. And what we saw when the hostages were being released is that thousands of Hamas fighters who should have been dead were in the streets wearing uniforms and parading. They weren't defeated at all, not even close. What was defeated was Israel. Their military was unable to accomplish the military task, and politically, Israel destroyed its reputation globally. Again, let's put things in perspective. In September of 2023, Joe Biden was at the G20 meeting, I believe, in New Delhi, in India, where he announced the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, this idea that you would somehow connect India through the United Arab Emirates, through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, into Israel, and on to Europe. Benjamin Netanyahu came out that same day and gave a speech where he said, this is the most important event to happen in modern Israeli history. Now, why would he say that? This is the most important event because, and people lose sight of this, Israel doesn't function logically. It's an illogically functioning nation because most nations can't succeed to live in a neighborhood where everybody's their enemy, surrounded by enemies. It's very difficult to succeed economically, and ultimately James Carville, his 1992 admonition to Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. It's the best advice anybody can give. It's all about the economy, and it's always about the economy. And Netanyahu understood that Israel was not positioning itself to survive economically, that they had to change the paradigm. This is what was behind the Abraham Accords that Donald Trump sought to implement in his first term. And so what Netanyahu was saying is now Israel will now, through this, become thoroughly integrated into the regional economy, that it will be up there working with the Saudis, working with the Gulf Arab states, working with the neighbors as an equal. And when you do that, and Israel now stop being this little poison cell and starts becoming part of the fabric, it liberates Israel. And it not only allows Israel to thrive, but it allows Israel to survive. He said it was the most important thing to happen in modern Israeli history. Well, on October 7th, in the Israeli reaction, the mowing of the grass, the actions that have been called genocide by the International Court of Justice, by the International Criminal Court, and by the world at large, Israel has lost its standing. Saudi Arabia will not normalize relations with Israel, nor will the Gulf Arab states, until which time there is a Palestinian state, something that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump were conspiring through the Abraham Accords to ensure never could exist. So Israel has complicated its picture. It's no longer a nation seeking to, merge into the global community. It's become an even more entrenched nation whose only path towards survival is through the United States. Without American assistance, American aid, Israel would cease to exist. So it's in a very precarious situation, and that's because of Hamas. And Israel's only doubling down on stupid by continuing the policies that failed it for the first 15 months of conflict, doing the same thing. What do they think is going to happen? They now have magic bombs that can kill all the Palestinians. I mean, it's crazy. Hezbollah, here Israel's had a better effect. The assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, a man who had ruled Hezbollah since 1992, and the deaths of his designated replacements, I think 2 layers down, combined with Israel's targeting of Hezbollah middle management through the exploding pagers and exploding radios, did great harm to Hezbollah. But there's 2 aspects to this. One is the damage done to Hezbollah's leadership in terms of dead and wounded, but the other is this revealed that Israel had penetrated Hezbollah to an extent unimaginable, and that's very difficult for Hezbollah to recover from. We also have a situation today where Hezbollah is more than just a resistance movement. It's a political party. It's part of the Lebanese government, and therefore it's beholden to the Lebanese people, not just the supporters of Hezbollah, to ensure that the policies that it embraces are policies that are good for the Lebanese people. Lebanon will support Hezbollah as a resistance movement. And here I think Israel's made a big mistake by continuing to occupy southern Lebanon, because all it does is provide legitimacy for the continuation of Hezbollah. But Hezbollah has to be careful, because if they engage Israel in continued conflict, Israel will punish the Lebanese population, the non-Hezbollah supporting population. And there's a risk that Hezbollah will become isolated, alienated, and eventually cut off and wither. So Hezbollah is treading very delicate political grounds here, and they don't have a Hassan Nasrallah who's been around forever to help them accomplish this task. So I do think you're going to see some hesitancy on the part of Hezbollah in terms of decisive actions, et cetera. But it's not a defeated organization. I just want to remind people that after Hassan Nasrallah was killed, in the days before the ceasefire kicking in, Israel sent two of its best units to seize hilltop villages in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, the 7th Armored Brigade and the Golani Brigade, and they were both defeated by Hezbollah fighters. So the idea that Hezbollah is incapable of resisting, etc., is ludicrous. I just think that Hezbollah has its hands tied politically because of the new reality that exists. They have to take into account the totality of Lebanese concerns, and they are a political party, not a resistance movement.